Hello! In this tutorial I'll teach you how to create a page with a combo box that will load some dynamic data from a database table, and according with the selections that we do on that combo box it will load another HTML widget, which could be another combo box that will load another dynamic data from a different database table. We can do this in multiple different levels. So let's just log in our framework, choose one of the workspaces, doesn't matter which one. Let's choose the My First Project and let's create a new page, call it tests. Then let's select the theme, and after we have our page editor with the test page with the selected templates, let's drag and drop the drop-down widgets into the content region. So then we can load some dynamic data from some database table into that drop-down. But before we do that, we need to understand what are the current tables that we have in the database. So currently we have these three tables. So what we're gonna do is I'll show you what are these three tables, and we'll create a third table just so we can have three combo boxes related with each other. So basically currently we have the school table, which has multiple teachers, and school table that has multiple students. What we're gonna do next is let's add like another table. Let's just call it A, doesn't really matter. Let's just call it A. We can just erase these fields here, and what we're gonna do is let's add a field called, it could be name, and this A will be related with the table students, something like this. So we can have three levels. So the first combo box will have the schools. According with the selection it will show the corresponding students, and according with the corresponding selection of the student will show the records of A. Something like this, very simple. Let's synchronize this to the database. Just execute the SQL, doesn't really matter what is the SQL, just click the button, and now we can see that we have in our database server we have the new table created here. So currently the school and the student already have records inserted in these tables. Let's do the same thing into the A table. So let's just edit here, go to this option and click manage records, and let's just add some default records in here. So for the student A, let's call it, in here will be, let's call it, this instead of being the table A could be something like grades or classes. In here could be the math class. It could be saying that, okay, this student is in the math class, something like this. Or the name João, it's in this class too. Well, as a matter of fact, it is the opposite, so we are not doing this correctly. So let's change this, so we can, instead of doing math, let's say like the grades. Like let's say that this guy has 3 and this guy has 4, something like that. These students, we can add more. For the student Maria, we can have 5. She's a very good student. Whatever, this is just an example. Maybe it's not the best example, but it's just an example so you can understand the relationships between students and a third table. So we can create then the combo boxes with these three tables. So the next step is, according with now our diagram that we created, our database model that we created, let's just drag and drop the drop-down widgets, and let's come here to this selection and let's do load resource. And let's create a new resource. Let's get our first table, which will be the school table, where the query type will be the get option. So basically we're gonna get all the schools and show it in this drop-down. So basically the system creates the corresponding resources to do that. Let's just open this better so we can see this better. So as we can see here, the system already set that resource automatically. Now we need to set the rest of the options. So we need to tell, okay, when will this resource be triggered? So we want this to be triggered on page loads. And additionally, we need to set the handler. So let's set this handler here, which is the load selected field resource. And we can erase here some dimensions, so this could be more beautiful. Okay, can look bigger. And if we save and if we preview what we currently have, we can see on page load, the system load this resource here, the resource with all the screws, and showing this into this select field. So we can add like some classes here, so this could be more beautiful, something like that. If we save, now it looks a little bit better. Okay, so the first combo box is done. Now what we want to do is to add a second combo box that, according with these selections, it will load the corresponding students. Okay, so next let's drag and drop the drop down widget into here, and let's again come here to the load resource option, and let's select the student, get options and update. Automatically the system creates this new resource, and now we need to set the other options. Now what is the load type? I don't want to set any load type, because this resource will be triggered when this guy here get changed. So but I need to still set a load handler, so let's set the load select field handler. Now additionally, in order to make a relationship between this box here and this box here, I need to create some dependencies, and the dependencies work on ID, so I need to give an ID to this drop down. So let's scroll up and let's put here an ID saying combo box 2. Let's add some classes, so this could be more beautiful. Let's remove the dimensions. Okay, doesn't really matter. Okay, and let's save and oh, okay, now that we had ID, now we need to go back to this drop down, and in here we need to set the dependencies corresponding to the ID that we just created. So we go to the dependencies group, we add it here, and we search for the new ID that we wrote, which is not here, so we just need to refresh, and here it is, combo box 2. Okay, now we say that every time that we do something here, it will trigger in the second combo box the dependencies of this second combo box. So basically how this works. So this load handler, what we'll do is, when this gets executed, after it executes this resource, it will execute all the dependencies. So it will load all the resources that are in the dependencies in here. So that's basically how this works. So let's just save and execute this just to show you what we currently have. So currently we have all the records here, and we have all the records from the students. Now the idea what we want to do next is, when I select something here, I just want to see the corresponding students of that school. So currently it's not doing that yet. What it's doing is, every time that I load this guy, is loading this guy here, and because we are not passing anything, any value, is loading all the students. So now let's do create add here new event to on change. It will change this field in here too. So we need to do this in 2 steps. So first we need to select the first drop down. We need to scroll down to the events section in here, and in the on change event we want to select this specific event here, refresh dependent widgets, based in the input value, so based in the selection of that combo box. But if that selection, if it is empty, get all the items of the dependencies. So that's what this currently is doing. So in the first time is getting all the students, so we want this one. So let's just do updates, and additionally, so this is the first step, and additionally the second step is to set the name for this drop down. So basically that event, what we're gonna do is get the values selected in this field, in this drop down, and then send that value into the dependencies, which will be the second drop down. However, he's gonna to send the value, he needs to have the name to reference that value. So the name to reference that value needs to be an attribute that the second combo box reads. So the second combo box is loading all the students, so it needs to read the value from here. So if you go to our database, you can see that the student table has a school ID attribute. So we can pass. So here we have the schools. So the selection that we're gonna make from here, it is getting the school ID. So we need to pass here then that school ID with the name school ID, so we can then make a query filtering all the students based in these attributes. So we need to type here school ID. And for now I think it's all. So let's just save and let's preview the page. So now it's getting all the schools, it's getting all the students too, but when I make a selection, now it's only show the students according with the school that I selected, as you can see. Additionally, let's say that every time that I refresh this, I'm seeing that is loading all the students, but let's say that I don't want this to load all the students. So how do I do that? So basically, in the first drop down, the handler that we selected, this handler, we cannot choose this handler, we need to select this other handler here, the load field resource. And what this will do is it will load the resource and then it will load the dependencies. It will load the dependencies, only the dependencies that were not yet loaded. So what we're gonna do on complete load callback, before it called the dependencies, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tricky the system by saying that, okay, set all my dependencies as they were already loaded. So when this guy, after he gets the resource, when he will load the dependencies, he will not load this dependency because he thinks that we're already loaded. So if we save now this field, and if we refresh, we can see that we have here all the schools, but we don't have none students. After we create here, after we click in the corresponding schools, that's when he gets the corresponding students. If we select this empty option, you'll get all the students. Why? Because the event that we selected in this drop down, the on-change event, was to refresh the dependent widgets, and if it is empty, don't get all the items from the dependent widgets. So if you don't want these to get all the items, we need to select this event instead. So if we update this, now when we refresh, if I have some selection here, now when I select here null, I will not see anything anymore. I'll not see all the records. I'll only see records when I select the corresponding school. Additionally, I see that I have an empty field here, that in all I have an empty field here. If I don't want to have this empty field, it's very simple. I just need to select the second combo box and go to the properties and disallow the null option. So if I save this now, I can see that when I refresh the page, it doesn't have anything here. It has the schools. When I select a school, I don't see the empty option anymore. As you can see, I don't see the empty option anymore. That's it. So now what we're gonna do next is to add a third combo box correspondence with the A table that we created, which the students they have A's. They have multiple records of A's. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a third combo box and we'll replicate basically everything that we did until now. So we get a third combo box, we paste it here, we give it an ID that we're gonna need it, combo box 3, we can give it some classes, form select, we can put some margin, we can make it allow null or not, we remove the dimensions, and in here let's load the resource, which in this case will be the table A. Automatically it loads the resource here. We don't want the load type to be none because it will only be load when this guy loads. We need to set the load handler, okay, And I think for this guy, I think that's it. Now we need to go to this second drop down, and instead of having this handler, I need to select this handler here, where I need to set the set dependent widgets loaded attribute, the same thing that we did before, where in here it can be null, and the name needs to be, so the A as the student ID, which is this as the students. So in here I need to put student ID. We need to set the dependency, we cannot forget. So we need to tell, okay, this drop down, every time that something happens here, it needs to replicate into this combo box, needs to execute the dependencies of this combo box. So we need to search the combo box tree. So we just refresh it, okay, it's here. And we need to set the event on change. Basically exactly the same thing that we did in the previous steps. So it can be this one, okay. And let's see what we currently have. Let's see if we didn't forget anything. Okay, so currently it's empty. When I come here, I select a school. I have here records. I don't have any records here. I select this record here, and I have the corresponding record. If I select this one, I have this one. If I select another one, I have here João, and it shows the second record. If I select this one, I don't have any record. After I select none, it shows here. Okay, however, I can see a weird behavior here, that when I have something here and I select something that doesn't exist, it's still showing this ID here. So I don't want that. So how can I make all of this be blank? So what I need to do in the second drop down, what I need to do is, in the complete load handler, I need to do something different, which is, instead of setting the loaded attribute here, I need to set the load attribute here, but additionally I need to set the value first, and then I need to refresh the dependence widgets based in input value. Okay, and now if I save this and if I preview the page again, so you can see this is null, and after I make my selections, it shows this. If I select another one, it shows it here empty, so in here it shows empty too. After I select, it shows the correct one. So now it is the correct behavior. As you can see, I select empty, it's already making all of this blank. Additionally, let's say that I want to make a selection and I want to automatically to load the first record instead of this being null. So I go to the second drop down, I disable the allow null, and if I save, it should work. Let's see if we didn't forget anything else. So if I now choose the record, automatically it loads the correspondent, the first record. So that's it. As you can see, it's working perfectly. And that's it. That's basically how you can create multiple fields with dependencies. So I did all of this based in drop downs, but let's say that this other drop down is not a drop down, but you have a list in here. So it's exactly the same. And that's it. So thank you very much.